Hello, this is PG, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm reviewing Sengoku Dynasty on the Xbox Series X. The game is also available on Steam and PS5. Sengoku Dynasty is a community-based survival game developed by Super Kami. The game is set in Japan during the Sengoku period and sees you control a unique character who has to lead a community through various challenges across multiple seasons. Okay, gameplay. Well, first things first, you get to create your character and you've got a few choices. You can choose whether you're male or female, hairstyles, facial hair, and also a very key choice, what kind of character do you want? Do you want a leader, a craftsman, a warrior, or a monk? This will in turn affect your starting point in terms of how your character is set up. Now the game opens up as you and your ally are shipwrecked in an unknown region, with the early play offering a pretty basic tutorial to get you up to scratch, get you some general tools, gather resources, build a few basic structures. Then you're pretty much free to explore rural Japan as you please, but bear in mind you have to choose where to set up home, and this is a choice that you should think carefully about. You see, Sengoku Dynasty is all about resources. If you plan on building lots of stuff, then you should be near, say, a forest. If you're looking to get into blacksmithing and make nice weapons, then the mountains have got good ore veins that you will have to mine. So you have to really think about the pros and the cons of where you set up. Anyway, once you've found your desired location, you place a bell tower. This acts as a sort of fast travel point, and then you simply just build around it. You can build houses, you can set up land for farming, you can create defensive fortifications, and even specific structures for things like tailoring, forging, and the like. To build, you simply select which structure, and then you place this skeleton element on the floor, and this then has to be populated with all of the different types of resources that it requires. Now this is quite an arduous process. There's a lot of back and forth, there's a lot of populating the structure. I've run out of sticks, I've run out of grass, I've run out of this, that and the other. It can get a little bit tiresome. But I'd say the system works pretty well. You can essentially build your village before you actually build it. You can set up the whole skeletal structure and then go off on resource gathering days and fill up all of these prefabricated designs. I would say the crafting menus perhaps could have been better. I mean, everything you need is there, but the images that are used to show each section, they're not very clear. There are menus within menus within menus, and it can be quite confusing, especially when you're trying to find something specific. It's also quite a slow-paced game. Building in particular takes several days, and as the days pass, other problems will occur. This is a survival game after all, so you've got to eat, you've got to sleep, you've got to manage your food levels, the health, the stamina. The seasons can change every few days if you wish, but personally I would advise you to avoid winter because that is definitely something you should prepare for in detail. But I'd say in general there's not a great deal of threats, but the main threats come in these community raids. So every so often a hostile group will come to steal your money or precious items, and this is where you get to test out the combat system at play. Now this is not Ghost of Tsushima, let me be very clear, but it is functional. You can block, you can do several different attacks, and despite it being relatively basic, it does the job fine, I'd say. Yes, you'll die a lot at the start as you fight in rags with rubbish weapons, but once you get properly tooled up with the right gear, it is much more enjoyable. Now, in terms of how you manage your community, I'd say the menu functionality is not the most user-friendly, accessible, or clear. When you invite a new resident, you have to give them a bed and a job if you wish, but bear in mind they also need to eat, and in time, if you neglect them, they might just leave you of their own accord. The game world is quite vast, I'd say, and it's a nice looking world for the most part. The seasons change, and when they do, everything does look and feel very different. But thankfully, the game does feature a bit of fast travel, so you don't have to slog all the way across the map at every time. And that really did help because it is quite a heavy time consuming game. Now if you die out on the road, you don't like lose everything, you lose a little bit of money. I can't remember if any items were dropped, I didn't remember anything specific that I was carrying, but generally I'd say the game lets you off quite easily with minimal penalties for death because you just wake up in your village. In terms of game modes, what have we got? We've got creative, which just gives you everything straight from the get-go, chill out, normal, hardcore, or custom if you want to tweak all of the different aspects to suit you. Now I spent about 20 hours on normal mode, which is the standard way to play. From that experience, I'd say it is quite slow going. Gather resources, build your village, manage the community, and it can be a little bit confusing as to what you actually have to do next in order to progress your dynasty level. Now after that, I did jump into creative mode, which, like I said, it lets you build anything straight away. I had a look at all the samurai armor and swords, the posh mansion buildings, advanced farming elements, and I would say they all look really, really cool. The question that I would pose is that for the amount of time you'd have to invest to get to that point, what is the purpose when you get there? What is the end game status, what is that phase like? Because I feel like once you get there, you'll just be, what is there to do after that? I guess just keep building, build an empire. But yeah, I didn't get to that point because it's going to take a lot longer, and I only had a certain amount of time to put this review together. I will probably do an updated review in about 6 months once I've played it naturally for a longer period of time, but there's definitely something to see in the long run, I'd say. Now, as I said, I was given about 10 days early access to this game, but I only played solo, so I cannot comment on how multiplayer works. I'd say for solo players, it's quite nice, pick up these refugees and the free folk, join your village, give them jobs, give them a house, watch it grow. It's pretty satisfying when it's done right. One thing to point out is that the Xbox version that this was you're looking at and I played is not on a par with the PC builds. Several aspects have not been truly tailored to the console market yet, but in time the devs say that they will remedy these things. Visually, it's more of an understated experience than one that will blow you away. Saying that, the characters look fine, the world is quite pleasant to observe. There are some issues, I'd say, with menus need to be clearer, more designed for the sort of TV console market. Also, there are some issues with the camera in the buildings. You can switch between 4 camera views, first person, third person, blah blah blah. I'd say in structures though, third person goes a bit wild. Sound, minimal, but I'd say the ambient sound effects are fine. The voice acting is okay. Again, I don't speak Japanese, so I can't comment on the quality of the actors at play because I don't understand Japanese, but it seemed okay, and the music is nice even though there isn't a great deal of it. Anyway, what is the verdict? Sengoku Dynasty is a slow-paced survival game with interesting community management elements. I'd say there is a lot of potential here, and for me personally, I really enjoyed playing a survival game during the feudal era of Japan. On a side note, I did make a documentary about the samurai, and that focuses on all manner of games during the Sengoku period, including this one. If you'd like to watch that, I'll put a comment in the description and comments. But back to the verdict, yes, it's a slow game, yes, there's a huge amount of resource gathering, and it is a grind, and it's a bit boring. But saying that, after checking out what the late game had to offer, I'd say it would be really satisfying as a journey to go through that lowly, rag-wearing refugee to an esteemed samurai who lives in a mansion. It might take you months, it might take you the rest of your natural life, who the hell knows? But anyway, I think it's got an interesting journey within it. So overall, solid, more quality of life improvements needed, but one that's got potential, and if you like samurai era, Sengoku era Japan, probably worth a look. Anyway, scoring Sengoku Dynasty, 7 out of 10. That's the review. Thanks for watching. This is PG signing off. Cheers.